Everyone, welcome to another episode of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Gerard Dawkins, and with me tonight, Billy Beeman, Jake Cordenblum. What's going on, guys?
Playoffs, man.
Playoffs.
Playoffs. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. But what I did forget about this time of year is how much work goes into the commissioner side of things and
Oh, yeah.
setting things up, especially when you don't just run by, record and you do points for, get into the last two spots or whatever it is. So yeah, just give your commissioner some grace this time of year. Just remember this time of year when payouts come, especially if they run a lot of leagues, like just they'll get you paid out. Just vibe, like they got a lot to do. There's a lot going on with the commissioners, so just give them some breathing room. But super stoked, man. We had some really cool playoffs in I think DU5 and DU3. There was a bunch of different scenarios that could happen, and some people got in, and then some 101s that were up for grabs. Just a lot of cool stuff happened in the last week of the season. So very exciting. How you doing, Jake?
Good. Thanks for asking. I'm doing great. Couldn't be better. It's playoff week, man. I'm stressed out of my fucking mind. I'm only happy about the two teams that I had on bye. Outside of that, I'm just like, fuck. I got so many decisions to make this week. I was actually talking to my dad really quickly before the show, and I was just like, dude, for your one dynasty team, try your best to just build it so that you have 11 to 12 elite assets, so you don't have to make start decisions come playoff time, because it is going to be the bane of your existence. Because next year you're going to be looking at your roster again and being like, how much can I change here? And if they're all elite, then you don't have to worry about it. And that's usually what I like to do. And somehow or another, some of my builds have slowly deteriorated. But anyway, how are you doing? You're right.
Great. This is going to be like the most stress-free week for me for a while. Like, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, it's been kind of a little bit easier because a lot of places. We'll talk about it later, but it's going to be a chill week for me. I'm glad it's coming to this point, though. I'm really kind of excited to get into the prospect side of things again. Like, I just am.
Damn.
I just can't lie. Yeah. But we got to get through this. See if we take home any money and run it back.
It's funny you say that, though. I do have an episode or a segment planned for the next episode, kind of around the evaluation process. So I'm glad your head's kind of getting back into it. So yeah, it won't be into any specific prospect or anything like that, but just talking about the process a little bit. So it's exciting. But yeah, let's get into it.
Cool. A little bit of news and nonsense here. Just a question about whether or not you would perform this type of move in any of your leagues, if it's ethical or not. So would you sit players to keep another team out of the playoffs if your winning means the other team gets in and you're already locked into the 1 seed? Ethical or not? Ethical. I mean, it's fine. The thing is, it's
wait,
ethical.
What's fine if you did it?
Well, just you don't like leave the spot open, right? But if
right.
What if you have beef with that other guy? Like, maybe he's a shitty trade partner. Like, this is like your one time to be petty, and it's not even a big deal because it doesn't even guarantee. It doesn't even guarantee that you're gonna lose. You can still win.
Oh my goodness. I love this. That's a hell of an answer. It's funny. I mean, if it's not in the rules, like if it's not in the rules, then you totally can do it, right? Like if it doesn't say you have to start your best lineup, like then you can do it. I don't know if it's ethical. I'm not really sure. I would probably lean on the not ethical side of things, but I don't know if you knew that you were in this scenario this past week in DU3. You could have kept me out of the playoffs by losing to Josh, and you won by, I think, 13 points. And so you could have done it if you noticed. And so I would have been hella pissed, I'll be honest with you. But I guess it's fair game. Definitely fair game. Jake, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's completely ethical.
I gotta watch out for this guy.
Only if he's watching. But yeah, I don't think it's unethical. Like, as long as you are starting a legal roster and there is a way to make your winning throughout the playoffs better, which is exactly what it would do in this situation, right? Like, I think Josh's team was going to go in basically based off of record rather than by points for. And he is, I want to say, like the 5th or 4th from the bottom in scoring. Like, I want that team in the fucking playoffs. Like, if I end up against that team, I want to be against that team. And if they beat me on an anomaly, then so be it. Whereas Billy, I think, has like the 5th best scoring team or 6th best scoring team. Like, I'd not want to play that team. Like, that's just kind of how I would be seeing it. And so, yeah, like if I can, bench my first string starting quarterback and put in, Tyler Shuck, who ended up having a great day and still end up beating the other team or whatever it might be, like, so be it. But I'm going to probably try and start like a weekend lineup, but still make it look competitive. I'm not going to be putting in like, I don't know.
Like, are you sitting Jamar Chase for Tim Patrick? Like, are you doing that kind of stuff? Or like,
I probably wouldn't do
like, how far
that.
do you take it?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it like that, but I would probably like shuffle the starting lineup to a point where it looks competitive, but isn't a complete shit show. But yeah, I think people would be people would be willing to do that, I think. And I don't think that person who's doing that as well is any less ethical. I think that I still kind of wear it as like a badge of honor in that situation to try and get the win, even if it does give me maybe a lower chance of winning throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a tough position for sure.
If I had noticed, I might have thought about it. But I didn't.
It totally sounds like if you noticed, you would have done it. Let's be very honest. Like, which is fine. I don't mind that. I'm surprised both of you think that it's not unethical, I should say. I don't know if you're necessarily saying it's like the most ethical thing ever, but like,
look,
you guys are like,
for weeks
it's not really
1 through 13.
I'll tell you what, if as a Patriots fan, I should really understand this, shouldn't I? It's like you do toe that line, I guess. And again, if it's not defined in the bylaws, you have even more of a leg to stand on, right? When it comes to like, if somebody's going to complain about it, like you're just like, look, like it's not in the bylaws. Like, I didn't sit Jamar Chase or anything like that, and I lost by 2 points. It's like, like I did my job. So like, I think there's probably a way to do it, like Jake's saying, where you like shuffle things around. Maybe don't start the fringe best players or whatever. Try to get a couple maybe under 5 points in there or something like that. Jeremy McNichols enters the lineup or something. It's like, so it's like, I can definitely see it where I wouldn't even notice maybe, your opponent's like not even really like, oh, okay, this doesn't look like they're doing anything to me. So yeah, there's probably a way to do it. And it probably is fair game. I'm sure if I was in the position, I would consider it. So I didn't really think that's where we would end up. I thought somebody would be like, no, you can't do that shit. That's interesting.
No, I set my lineup like Wednesday morning and I didn't really do any other investigations.
Low key though, like that's something though that you like it, and typically you're like really paying attention, like max points for like all that stuff, you're like digging in. So I'm surprised you didn't notice, but like that is something that you can gain an advantage on your opponents if you notice that and they don't, and they're not really dialed in. You can just sit some players and all of a sudden they're not in the playoffs. So like I would say when you're in the last couple of weeks of the season, take a look at that stuff, see who is on the fringe and who needs a win. And if your team can somehow impact that, might be fair game. Just saying.
I wonder what the conversation would have been like if I did do that.
I was sweating my ass off. Like again, like I wouldn't come in here like and be like, oh, no more podcast. I'm not dealing with Ryan. Like I'm not going to do that or anything. Like I'm out of this league. No, I would just be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, because I would feel a little like, because I do think that there is something like you should be playing like the most competitive you can to the end. You know what I mean? There is something to that, but I think to your points, that kind of is playing the most competitive to the end, right? Like you are paying the most attention and you are making sure that the most competitive team or one of the more competitive teams can't be in the playoffs with you, right? So I do think that there is some element of like, I am putting in maximum effort here and this is me contending. So I can see it both sides.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Let's move on to just kind of something that we hinted at last week, which is great. Which is kind of see how have we done, as Dynasty players. I think a lot of people put up posts on their social media like, hey, I'm in 10 leagues and I made the playoffs in 7. Just, accountability, right? Or transparency. So let's pull up kind of what we did. I didn't really update for this last week, but I think I think it's not going to change much, except for console wars where I would have beat every single one of those 35 other teams, which is crazy.
I guess my all play record will be slightly inflated because I did include the console war stuff, but it wouldn't have been that much different. Like it's pretty much 50%. My all play is pretty close to 50% is where it's at. So
Yep.
But yeah, go ahead, Uriah. Sorry. Just want to say
well, your first, why don't you go ahead and kind of walk us through what you got here?
Oh, all right. I mean, yeah. Okay, so yeah, we basically just kind of charted out the amount of teams we have, what kind of, if they're contenders or not, if they're in the playoffs. It's if you're watching, it's pretty apparent, but I'll go through it. And then Jake did us a solid here and actually went through. There's some tools out there. I think Dynasty Dealmaker is the one who does it, where it's like a trade report card, basically, and goes through like your most valuable trades, your least valuable trades, your trade delta overall, like how much value you've gained or how much value you've lost in potentially most of our cases here. So I'll go through it. For me, I got 16 teams. I have 11 teams in the playoffs. So I guess it's about a 70% playoff conversion rate, 69%. Three of those teams are first or second year startup teams that made it to the playoffs. Got 8 contenders, 3 rebuilders per Dynasty Daddy. The rest of those are frisky, which honestly, like, that's I think where I would have learned the most from this whole thing. I feel like they didn't fall into a specific bucket, but like some of those are fringe contenders, some of those are probably fringe need to go the rebuild side of things, and that's definitely where I guess how many is that? That's like what, 5 of my teams. So 5 of my 16 teams, I need to really kind of, I think, pick a path over the off season and figure out exactly where those need to go. Some of them I do think have some legs. So those are the teams just kind of when I go on Dynasty Daddy, I think the contenders rebuilders are pretty like, you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing with these and where they're going. And I think even the frauds kind of fall into the rebuilder category pretty seamlessly. But those frisky ones are the ones where I think for the most part, you could probably spend some time learning and thinking about what you can do to pick those up. So I guess best place we can go from there. I mean, what I will say is 11 playoff teams, personally, I feel like that's pretty good for the 16 leagues. Some of them aren't as strong as others for sure. I could definitely see 1 or 2 of those falling out maybe in the first round, but I did have 3 teams with a first round bye, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like a lot when it's such a coveted position to be in and it's really hard to get there. So I'm happy about that as well. And then I guess this is where things kind of broke down for me, I feel like this season personally, and I kind of felt it too. And I was avoiding the trade report card. I was like telling Jake, I'm like, I don't want to look at that thing. I really don't want to look at that thing because I kind of knew I lost some trades early in the year, and I was kind of really trying to make up for it throughout. So I had 70 trades, about 4.5 per team, which honestly, that's not bad, but it feels a little low. I feel like I'd probably like to be a little higher for myself, probably somewhere around like, I don't know, 8 per team or something like that would feel a little bit better. But so Jake, on this delta, I think mine was negative, right? 35, 158.
No, it was positive.
It was positive. Oh, okay, it was. I thought it was negative when I looked. Okay, well, that's good. Positive 35,158 in trade value, which I don't know. I guess compared to Jake's when he'll go through it, mine felt really low, but it also felt like I just didn't gain as much value as I thought I was in a lot of these trades. And, I mean, a lot of that has to do with, some of it has to do with injury and whatnot of certain players, but just going through, I guess, my best and worst trade per this report card. It says my best trade was Luther Burden, 25 first. Luther Burden, which I guess I traded out during the draft, for 26 first, 26 second, and a 25 fourth, which turned into Woody Marks. Marks definitely, I guess, plays a role in how well, I guess, that trade turned out. I still think Burden could be a pretty good piece and maybe equal that or even surpass the value on that side. So I'm kind of surprised that was my best trade. Felt like I had a couple more that were maybe a little more in my favor, but whatever. This one here is interesting. My worst trade, it says, is Devon Achane and a 25 first, which ended up being Tyler Warren. This is a non-tight end premium league and also one QB league, just to be fair to myself here, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't feel too bad about that because I did get Amon-Ra St. Brown. So like if that's my worst trade, like I'll eat that value, I guess. Maybe I didn't read Achane correctly. And that's something I got to kind of look back on a little bit. But that said, I mean, if that's my worst trade, I'm not gonna, kill myself over it. So I think I could have done a lot better in the trade department in general this year. I gave up. I know I talked about it throughout the season a lot. I basically like gave in to a lot of trades, right? Like a lot of trades that came through, it was either like probably just in their favor or something like that. And I definitely could have countered more. It may have been just kind of like I didn't have enough time or whatever it was, and maybe it was the decision fatigue early on in the year where we talked about those. We had episodes on that where we were talking about the decision fatigue and just life and the season and everything kind of snowballing. So I think there was a lot of that, and things kind of calmed down, and I was able to dig in a little bit more later in the season and get some things done. But within those trades, I did have like the DU1 team. I really got that into a good rebuilding position. DU2 team, I ended up getting the 101, which was a really tough feat in that league. And I think that I did a decent job kind of moving certain teams in the direction I needed to. So while I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to, I feel pretty good about this portfolio performance personally this year. I did think there was a couple teams like League of Legends. I felt like I should have been in the playoffs. So came down to injuries, I think, throughout the year, just couldn't get me there. But yeah, I guess that's where I'm at with it. Any feedback's welcome. If not, either Uriah, Jake, take it away.
Yeah, I feel like you were pretty critical of yourself there, and I don't think there's any reason to be any more critical. Honestly, I'm looking at this. No,
I could be, but you know what? I'm gonna hold back. Oh, you did it yourself. Thanks.
No, I think you did a very comprehensive job of it. The only thing I was gonna say is like I look at the three of us, and it felt like a pretty successful year for all three of us. So all in all, like I think pretty big pat on the back, regardless of I don't know, like how invested we might have felt this year. I know all three of us have gone through our own different things, and to be where we are and to be as successful as we are has kind of been a pretty big accomplishment. So what I have here in my portfolio of just Dynasty was 12 teams, 3 of which are contenders in year 1 or 2 of the startup on Dynasty Daddy. 6 of them are true contenders, so about half, 4 of which are rebuilders. Of those 4 rebuilders, 2 of them got the 101. 2 of them failed miserably into getting the 101. We can talk a little bit about DU5 and kind of how I built that team to compete in year 1 and then realized that a lot of the league was going very top heavy. I tried to transition, and I transitioned at the same time that a lot of other teams were also transitioning. So I ended up just not being able to shed as many points as other folks. And so I think I ended up getting the 105 or 106, which I traded into, for or getting out of like Trey McBride. And in that format, that just felt like a fucking giant loss, especially right now. Like I look back at that, I'm just like, holy shit, that was such a terrible trade. But in retrospect, like I know what I was trying to do. I just was not able to shed all the points that I was trying to get off of that roster. That being said, of the 12 teams, even with those technical rebuilders on there, somehow or another, I did end up getting 9 teams in the playoffs. One of those teams, I was really surprised. I just told the guys, like, got in literally today or yesterday by the skin of my teeth. Thought I was going to miss it, and I didn't read the bylaws. The season ended in week 13, and I made it. So that was kind of lucky, but also probably pretty disappointing because that build has 0 chance of basically competing this year. But, it really helps the story arc here of what my playoff conversion looks like at 75%. It looks fucking fantastic, right? That being said, number of teams with first round bye, only 2, which wasn't super successful. One of my teams, I think DU2, just truly underperformed beyond belief. Like I just didn't really think that my year was going to go as poorly as it did. Banking on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase on a year that they probably have 2 of their worst years with the draft capital that I put into them, I think really, really hurt what that team looked like. The same thing with Ashton Genty. So yeah, unfortunate, but we move, and thankfully I have a pretty good base moving forward. So we'll be able to recycle hopefully into the following year. That being said, looking forward, I do feel like I am looking relatively good. To Billy's point before, I've made 137 trades on those 12 different teams. That's about 11 and a half
Crazy.
trades per team. This doesn't include, I will say, my best ball dynasty team. One of the reasons I didn't include it because I just didn't feel like it was the same. But I will say
Trash.
that
Sorry, what?
yeah, I ultimately failed. I really did. I thought I had a good understanding of what I was doing, and I just failed miserably. The build didn't go the direction I wanted to. I ended up trading away my first early in the year for T. Higgins, and that first ended up being, I think, the 103 or 104. It's like, yeah, as you can see, like there were definitely moments in this year, even if I do end up winning maybe 1 or 2 leagues, where I'm going to look back and say to myself, really need to work on some process. So even though I accumulated 95,000 KTC magical fantasy points from those 137 trades, I'm still looking at about an average of positive gain of about 700 fantasy points per trade. And by fantasy points, I mean like KTC value or whatever the hell deal makers using to.
It's not like you're talking about like fantasy points, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trade value, I would say. Trade value is what
fantastical points instead of fantasy points there.
Yeah.
But yes, trade value.
Fake.
Last thing I want to talk about here is that my quote unquote best trade was trading out of Garrett Wilson on June 11th for a JSN plus a third. That was a fun one. I remember posting it on the Discord and everyone voted, not everyone, but a large group voted Garrett Wilson. And I had already done the trade, which was fun. And you know, whenever you post the trade in a Discord and
feels
the folks
terrible.
go against you, your gut is just like, oh, what have I done?
What have I done?
Yeah, literally. Unfortunately, having JSN on that build didn't help me as I missed playoffs by 15 points. That sucked. But, you know, I wouldn't have been that 15 points closer if I would have had Garrett Wilson. So that's another thing. That was another league where I didn't check the bylaws. And guess what happens? I thought it was top 6 make the playoffs, top 4 this year, even though in previous years it was top 6. That's why when you're playing dynasty leagues that are also Empire and or like weird ruled leagues, just always check the bylaws every single year. That was one league that definitely screwed me for playoffs. And then last one, which was on the 5th of the year, so going almost back an entire calendar year, I traded away the 109, the 202, the 402, and Rasheen Ali, also known as the entire 2025 draft. But I think Jay thought I was saying all there, but yeah, that's Rasheen Ali. So I ended up trading Emeka Egbuka.
I mean, you basically did trade a whole draft class for him.
Geez.
I mean, Egbuka Dart. I'm just saying. That's definitely. I mean, I get it in a way, but like,
I think the value at hand, like the 109 and the 202 for Purdy, was totally fair value. This is just one of those where if you trade away picks far enough from the draft, even if you know what the picks are, you can't necessarily understand where the board will fall. So like, I didn't have any understanding that Jackson Dart would be sitting there at the 202. Like, I thought that would be someone trying to grab fucking Shedeur Sanders early or something like that, or a Tyler Shuck, like something ridiculous like that. The fact that a first round quarterback dropped into the second round of this rookie draft was just not something that I put into play when I made this trade initially. And yeah, if that was Caleb Johnson and Emeka Egbuka, we'd all be like, okay, fair, fine. But the fact that it ended up being Jackson Dart makes it look a lot worse. But yeah, it was a massive loss in the trade database. I think it was something there. I think it was like minus 15,000 points or something like that. So the fact that I was still able to be like almost plus 100,000 points really, really tickled my pickle. But I did also make 137 trades in this calendar year. The last thing I did want to say, just from like a portfolio basis, was that this was probably the first year that I've played in multiple charity leagues as well. I know it's not necessarily dynasty related, but I did want to pat myself on the back. I made top 30 in the SLFF. And I'm also in the quarterfinals of Scott Fishbowl. So yeah, it's been a fucking awesome year. Honestly, it's just been so much fun. Shout out to the Portland Timbers division. Those guys have been great. Most people have been local. They've all wanted to try and hang out throughout the year. Kind of sucks that we never made it happen. But seriously, it's just been a ton of fun. And Scott Fishbowl and the SLFF have just been really, really fun. Really just want to kind of shout out those charity leagues. I think a lot of people kind of poo-poo them because you're not competing for money, but being able to be in this like communal experience with other people that are just as committed and are playing either Dynasty, Redraft, Keeper. They're from all different walks of life, making all different types of content, playing in all different types of leagues. It really is just a very unique experience, and just wanted to shout it out because if it wasn't for Billy and Uriah and Josh, I would never have been in Scott Fishbowl. So thank you guys. Like seriously, I really do appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun this year.
Hell yeah. No, yeah, Scott Fishbowl, we sponsored it for years, and we've been in it for years, and it's always been something I feel like that is like a gateway into Dynasty somehow, because there's a lot of Dynasty players there, and it's unique settings that you don't often experience if you're just in your home league. So yeah, as many people as we can get into that, we want to, and it's been really cool being able to get like all of our friends kind of into it and stuff like that. So yeah, big shout out to Jake though. Like, dude, you've had an amazing year, both in Dynasty and in Redraft, and to be still remaining in Scott Fishbowl is crazy. That trade value right there, even with the amount of trades you've done, is pretty impressive. I said that to you when I first saw it. And also just shout out to us. Like I would say all of our all play records are over 500, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
All of us are over 50% of our teams are in the playoffs. It's pretty damn good. So yeah, we're definitely heading in the right direction, I feel like, and doing the right things. So it's good stuff. But you're right. Go ahead, take it away, man. How do you feel about your portfolio performance?
I feel really good, to be honest with you. Just like, the basic numbers here, I was kind of poo-pooing on the contender versus rebuilder
Sure.
label in Dynasty Daddy, just because literally I had a team that's got a first round bye and it says I'm frisky. I'm like, what? How's that? I was like, this is ridiculous. But
yeah.
But
there is some stuff going on there with the Dynasty value that's being used in that algorithm. So like you gotta look at everything. Yeah, sorry.
So I only have 8 Dynasty teams, which a lot of people would think that's a lot. Some people don't think that's very much, but it's enough for me. 8 Dynasty teams. I had, let's see here. 2 of them were contenders in the year 1 or year 2 startup. That'd be DU4, DU5. According to Dynasty Daddy, I have 2 contenders, 2 rebuilders, and that's probably pretty close to accurate on the rebuild side. So on the rebuild side, I was able to secure a 1-on-1, and one that I think is pretty obvious at the beginning of the year, even that's kind of what I was going to end up doing. When you draft JJ McCarthy and Anthony Richardson as your quarterbacks in a league that doesn't trade very often, that's going to happen. But I'm pretty proud. I have 4 teams in the playoffs, and 3 of them have first round byes.
That's badass, actually. That's really good.
Yeah. So I find it pretty successful that the teams where I knew I wasn't going to be contending, I was able to get towards the very bottom, either secure the 1-on-1 or something close to it, except for DU2, where there's a lot of other people also tanking. It's kind of hard to like fully tank, but one league where I am in the playoffs where I probably shouldn't be. But other than that, I feel pretty good, man. Having 4 playoff teams going this week, which is half my portfolio, and I don't have to worry about setting a lineup for 3 of them. Like, this just feels like a bye week as far as like sweat and all that. Like, I have really one where I'm gonna have to grind it out, and I have really no business being in the playoffs in that one, but I'm gonna still try to win. But it is kind of nice seeing that 75% of my playoff teams did earn a first round bye. And I have most of my picks in most of those leagues. Let's see here. Year 1, year 2 playoff rate. So I only made 36 trades, which kind of seems probably pretty normal for me. Only 8 teams, but that's 4.5 trades per team, which is actually more than Billy, which I find really shocking.
That is crazy, actually. I mean, yeah, I guess percentage-wise, yes, that makes sense.
And then trade value gained was about 30,000 points, which Jake did the little math here, which is about a little over 800 fake fantasy points per trade. So seeing that compared to you guys is like, even though it's not huge, it's being that's like a little bit more like I'm like, okay, maybe I don't suck as bad as like I think I do when I trade. So maybe I should trade a little more. Let's see.
Not
Your
a bad
best trade.
takeaway. I like that.
Best trade was made just about a month ago, a little less than a month ago. It's cool because this is DU5 where up until this week I was undefeated. I think I was second in max point 4. Just having a really good year. Like I don't think I've had a Dynasty or any fantasy team go that long without taking a loss. So I was really trying to hope like get through the whole regular season undefeated. Like that just would have felt like amazing. But of course, the last week I take a loss. But it was cool. I made this trade. Rashad Bateman, which we had talked about a couple weeks ago, is a guy that maybe we just want to get off of. And then Brian Thomas Jr., who's been, despite him being on my roster and where I drafted him, my team is performing very well. I thought it was worth moving off of him for Dalton Schultz, Christian Watson, Booty, and I got a 26 first back. And I still, seeing that trade, knowing I still have my own 26 first, to get another 26 first and have 2 26 first moving into either the playoffs or come draft season as like a top ranked team. I just, that feels pretty good. So I am proud of that trade. Billy hated it, but I'm proud of that trade.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny that I hated it and it was your best trade, but it's like it's so funny because
when I saw that, I'm like, what?
Watson is doing some heavy lifting, but it definitely helps getting that first in. I honestly feel like, again, to like the more trading thing, like I wonder if in this situation you try to get off of 1 or 2 of those guys, like, and make more back on that trade. Like, do you really need Watson for this run? And is he going to keep it up? I don't know. Just something to think about, not trying to be whatever, but it's like if you already made a little bit on this and you can turn it into more even and an extra, maybe you can turn Watson into, I don't know, first or something. You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. Just saying. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
you clearly did something decent there.
Unless I get bounced. Right. So
yeah.
And then my worst trade, this is hindsight, by the way, but good on them. I traded a 3rd and a 4th for Rashad Bateman, but the person that got my 3rd and 4th turned that into Woody Marks and Harold Fannin. So it's like, oh man.
It may be worth mentioning about Fannin though. Like that's something that we probably shouldn't do again. Let a guy like that fall to the 3rd. You know what I mean? Like you should be taking him in the 3rd round. We all had a shot at that. I probably did it once or twice. So just saying.
Yeah. So, but all in all, like, yeah, feeling good. Just if I look at it, just based on knowing I'm purposefully rebuilding in 2 of my 8 leagues and succeeded, was just seeing what would happen in 2 of my other 8 leagues. That's half I'm going to be rebuilding for sure. Half I'm going to say, hey, let's see what happens. Not kind of move either way. And then the other 4 where I'm going for it and all 4 make the playoffs. Like I feel pretty successful up to this point.
That's great. Yeah, it's a good breakdown. Definitely. It does seem like you did what you wanted to do in the majority of leagues that you were trying to do something, which is, I mean, at the end of the season, that's pretty much what you can ask for. I think a takeaway for me, just for both of us, would be we just need to trade a little bit more. Like, yeah. And I think if I looked over the past like 3 years, I'm probably averaging more towards like 7 to 10 trades. You know what I mean, per team or something like that. And this was more of a down year for me, but regardless, I think because we're actually making plus value as a whole, we probably should be, seeking out a few more deals throughout the year. As challenging as it may feel, it's just something we got to carve out time for. We talked about like your fantasy schedule kind of thing, or like, how you go throughout the week and do things. It's like, we probably need to carve out an extra 30 minutes to like hit the bathroom and look at send some trades out. You know what I mean? We're not really in the bathroom, but that's what the fam thinks we're doing. So we're sending trades out. But yeah, just something I wanted to throw out there, just looking at this.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Other than that, yeah, this is really fun to do. I think it's a really good exercise to do because you will find little spots where you could make extra gains, I think, by doing this. So I got a lot out of it. But anything else from you, Uriah, Jake, anything else you guys want to touch on before we move forward?
No, just again, collectively, I think as a group, it looks like we've been pretty successful this year. So good job. And especially we all have kind of some individual things going on that, make carving out time to do this in a way that is successful and meaningful is not always so easy. So
yeah, big shout out. Anything from you, Jake?
No, I think that honestly closes this section really well. We are just absolutely killing it. And best of luck to both of you in the playoffs, unless you're against me, as Uri would say. And if that's the case, then I hope your team has the worst week of the entire season.
Takes a shit. Yes.
Yeah. Like the biggest possible shit. Yeah. Like I don't want it to be competitive and I like barely beat you. Like I want to win by like 150 points.
Yeah, wrapped up by the morning games. That's what I'm saying.
yeah. Once it hits 1 o'clock PST, like I don't even want to think about playing you anymore. Like I want it to be over.
Put a fork in it.
I will say, I expected the performance review to be worse. Personally, like for myself, I not you guys. I expected y'all to be shitty. No, I truly expected mine to be a little worse, and I didn't expect as many playoff teams to make it because I felt like I was having a little bit of a down year personally, and that probably was more on the trading side of things. Fortunately, I feel like I do build sustainable teams in a way, so I guess I was able to get through it this year a little bit. But yeah, I was very happy to see all of ours look really good, but just obviously mine in particular because I thought it was going to be bad, and I'm me. Yeah, it's me. So yeah. Whoops. All right, move on. Sorry.
Cool. All right, quick little topic here says, what does Dynasty mean to you? It says you play in Dynasty League, but what does it mean? How long do you intend to play for and compete for? Well, I'll throw it to Jake.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's funny, right? Because when I hear the word Dynasty, my head always goes back to the NFL. Like there's just something about like every single sport has like their own nomenclature for like just pure domination in the sport for like an extended period of time. But in the NFL, there's something about the idea that a team has a dynasty over an extended window, and that window usually means true success. You do have, the rare instances like the Buffalo Bills where their dynasty was success, but it never actually won a Super Bowl, right? Like to be able to
Cowboys.
go Cowboys, yeah.
Did the tour.
Dynasty, yeah. The Cowboys.
Nobody wants to say Patriots. Patriots were the guys.
No, I was saying the reason the Bills weren't as successful was because the Cowboys always knocked them out of the Super Bowl.
The Steelers had a dynasty era. The 49ers had a dynasty era. Like there have been plenty of dynasties in our own lifetime. Yes, we are currently, unfortunately, in probably the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. We maybe are at the tail end of it. Maybe, hopefully,
weak sauce dynasty.
Jesus Christ! All right, that's not. That's not the point, Billy. Let me continue. But all of this to say is that I do think that it like inherently changes my perspective of what dynasty fantasy football is, if that makes sense. So when I think of dynasty fantasy football, I think of it in the same way. Like I think about how can I create a roster, a build that will last as long as it can. It can win as much as it can in a very extended period of time. And like that extended period of time in my mind is somewhere between probably 4 to 6 years, I think is like probably as realistic as I can get. I think outside of that is probably playing with fire, but that would be, I think, my generalized time frame of like what it looks like. And that's competing at the highest level. That means making the playoffs every single year. You could probably look at the current Pittsburgh Steelers and say to yourself, are they a dynasty? But they've made the playoffs we're in what, the teens now? Last year was the first year that they didn't make the playoffs, if I remember correctly, in a long period of time. But outside of oh no, they actually did make the playoffs. I apologize. Even with Russ, I think they just went out first week. But all of this, like this is really just about, I think, how the NFL has kind of like changed my perspective, because so much of our competitors, when we play in the leagues that we play in, are so willing to kind of give up the future, give up their chances of winning later on with this idea of competing immediately. That could be startup year, where they're trading away all of their future draft capital to make sure that they win years 1 and 2. That could be doing that at some other phase of their build, could be in years 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be. But there's so many different approaches to the game of Dynasty Fantasy Football. And so in my mind, it's to extend your win cycle or window for as long as possible, and in the range of somewhere between 4 to 6 years to compete as much as possible during that window of time.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Real quick comments here. Lefty Joe, Dynasty means everything. Absolutely. I agree, because we're insane. And then this is a good comment here by Ligon TD. If I said that right. Dynasty has improved my decision making in everyday life. It's a tool that teaches valuable skills. I mean, I definitely think there's something to that. There's a lot about, I think there's a lot to like having a community of people you have to interact with constantly and not be an absolute douchebag. It does kind of, help you navigate probably other areas of life a little bit here and there. And also I do think that there's something about like critical decision making, strategic decision making, and planning and stuff like that. I do think that there's something to that in general. So I'll agree with that. For me though, getting back to the questions here, what does Dynasty mean? Yeah, it's funny. Like, I do think Jake is probably right in terms of like what the spirit of Dynasty leagues means or was meant to mean. But like, I always thought of it, or it always felt like it meant a league that doesn't end. Like, as silly as that might seem, but it to me, the defining difference between a redraft league and a Dynasty league is that you don't redraft your team each year, right? And so that's kind of how I like always associated, or what I always associated with Dynasty. But I think that Jake is probably right. Like, I think the goal is to build a dynasty that lasts as long as it can, or wins as much as it can throughout the life of the Dynasty League. I don't think of in terms of like how long do I intend to play for. I don't think of an end date, especially in any given league. Like, I don't have an end date in my mind at all. Of course, unless it's like specifically defined in the bylaws and there's, some empire to it or whatever like that. But like all of our Dynasty Underdog listener leagues, like I have no intent on, sunsetting those at any time, really folding those leagues for any reason. I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm going to play this only for 10 years. Like, I intend to keep the league going for as long as I possibly can keep it going, because I think that's going to create super interesting scenarios. It's going to create really great relationships with the people. It's going to just be super interesting to see these teams transition over potentially a decade in time. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, that's crazy. And so, yeah, I don't really think of how long I'm going to play for really with a limit. And then compete for, that's a tough one. I've already been in like our DU1 league. We've been doing this for like 5 years. So it's somewhere around that, maybe 4 years that we've been in it. And I've won a ship, I've contended, and I'm now rebuilding completely. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I intend on competing again pretty soon, before the 10-year mark, that's for sure. So I intend on, coming back around and competing. So for me, like, I want to compete as long as possible. Most of my builds, I do come out of a startup, like trying to win. Not often am I trying to, rebuild, lose, productive struggle, really. But I also, as I've talked about many times, try to build sustainable teams that I can kind of churn the back end, the middle of it, whatever it is, to continue competing. So like for me, I do want to compete in like these probably like 2 to 4 year windows and build in some rebuild cycles if needed. And then hopefully I can get into like a consistent flow of that, right? Where you're like competing, and then there's almost inevitably going to be a time, not every team, some teams do, like there's certainly one team I can think of that I have, and one team that Jake has, or maybe a couple teams that Jake has, but where there's so many Dynasty assets on it, you're like, as long as you don't let these die and you churn out of them consistently, like you're probably going to keep a pretty locked in playoff team. So there are those. And like, if you can get there, 100% try to, but it's not always possible. So on an average, my goal is, 2 to 4 years, recycle, come back in if possible. And I've certainly have ones that don't necessarily fit that cycle or are longer term rebuilders that you try to avoid those, of course, but it happens, happens time to time. So, but yeah, that's my answer. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think about it. I agree with you for the most part. I think Jake is probably right that we should be trying to build a dynasty, but it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. And you always find yourself with the temptation to send future assets for, I mean, we talk about as a strategy that I don't think any of us has ever poo-pooed against it. Like, oh, sending out a future first to get a player, because that might be what actually essentially wins you that leg. That's going to kind of oftentimes prevent you from actually building a real dynasty, because you're going to lose on that trade, and you're typically going
sometimes, yeah. To your point, you're going
not always,
to
right? So
lose that. Yeah.
So that it is harder to do. So I did always just kind of look at dynasty as, it's a dynasty as like, this league's never going to end. Like, I get to play every year, and I get to keep my same players. Like, that's the best part. Like, I always hated that about redraft is like, I would draft and I'd find like, these sleepers and stuff, and like I have to let them go at the end of the year. And I really hated that. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. I get to keep all my people. And so that's what I find, the best about dynasty, which is not necessarily the question, but that's just how I've always looked at it, was like, this is a team that I get to keep forever and ever and make it my own. And I don't have to give up any players that I don't want to get up anymore. But I should be looking at, maybe to Jake's point, builds where you're competing year after year after year after year. But being able to do that sustainably while also adding to your young player pool is the hard part. I think that it's easier said than done. Unless you're super active trader, you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the picks to get younger, and then eventually you're only doing the competing dynasty thing for 2 to 3 seasons, and then you really have no choice but to go back in your hidey hole, rebuild, gather some picks, and come back out swinging again. Like, it's just kind of the cycle I've seen in the 6-7 years that we've been doing this. It's really hard to sustain for more than a few years. But yeah, I come out of every single startup trying to win, but I'm not going to give up future capital to do it, because I already know that's putting me in a situation where if I don't compete that year, I'll be rebuilding the next one, right? So it's a slippery slope there. But I pretty much agree with everything that Billy said, but also understand where Jake's coming from.
Yeah, just to quickly add something, I did, and I love both of your points here. I think it's really interesting that the term dynasty from a sports perspective actually was initiated back in 1905 in the Washington Post. Someone stated, and I quote, John T. Brush's baseball dynasty. And then in 1912, a few years later, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported, if players were free agents at the end of every 2 years, baseball dynasties such as those built up by the Cubs, Athletics, Detroits, and Giants, I don't know why there was a team named the Detroits, would not be possible. And I find that really interesting, because they're talking about how if players are basically cycling every 2 years, you won't have baseball dynasties. And I just found that really interesting, because I think it kind of puts this all together.
It brings it together.
Yeah. Because when you think about the initiation of the term dynasty, you're talking about basically like successful rulers back thousands upon thousands of years ago, especially like back in China, where there were dynasties that existed through families for hundreds of years. And so when you think about that, I'm not telling anyone that they have to compete in their dynasty league for hundreds of years. If you can live for that long, like, more power to you. But I think most importantly, like, trying to do it for some type of extended period of time feels like it aligns well with the terminology of the name. But I do love the idea that Billy's point of it being the name of the league itself also has its own point. Like, if the dynasty league is the dynasty league, and that's how I guess it's an adjective. Yes, there we go. The adjective would be used to the league itself. Man, grammar, awesome. We would then end up being driving dynasty as in the adjective of the league itself instead of the team. But when you say my dynasty team, it makes everything way more complicated, because is your team actually a dynasty? Maybe not. It's just in a dynasty league. So it gives you a little bit more to think about as we kind of
are you even playing Dynasty, really? Like, if you don't have a Dynasty team in a Dynasty league? That's actually super interesting, because I do think it's both. It's like you are trying to build a dynasty, but to build a dynasty, you have to have similar players on your team each year, right? Like you do have to have the same, like you can't have to redraft this team. So it's like, yeah, it's a super interesting conversation. I love that question. It's very dynasty underdog. And so very welcome on this pod. Real quick here from the Big Woy, which is probably the Big Witch, if we're being honest, but I'll keep that out of there. Big Woy. Dynasty is way to start Madden franchise mode with money in against real people. Yeah, it kind of is like that. Definitely brings the Madden franchise mode to life. Love that. They're talking about 6-7 in here. Get that out of here. What am I doing? All right, let's move on to dynasty trades.
All right, cool. Very cool topic. I like it just because it gets you thinking. And then I also love sentence structure and grammar and that side of things, the nerdy side of things that Jake was bringing up, because those things just bother me on a daily. Also, shout out Tony in the Discord, Brush, Colorado. That was awesome. Without Dynasty,
that was awesome.
That never exists. That was the wildest thing. Like,
what was it? Wait, what was it?
Sunday. So, guy in our Discord, Tony.
Yeah.
Been in there for a couple of years, right? Or at least quite a while.
Yeah.
Well, he says he's from Colorado. I was like, well, shoot, whereabouts? I grew up there. And he says, oh, yeah, Northeast Colorado, Brush, Colorado. I'm like, Brush? Dude, bro, this town has like less than 6,000 people now. I haven't lived there.
Crazy.
I haven't lived there since 2002. We went to the same high school together.
Crazy. Holy crap, we're crazy.
In a niche fantasy football league called Dynasty Fantasy Football, which is a lot smaller than you think it is. And he's in a Discord because of our podcast. And we've been interacting for a year or more. And it turns out we went to school together. I worked at Subway with his cousin, Rachel. My sister was our boss.
That's insane. That's insane.
That is
and
insane.
That's not a coincidence, I'm going to be honest with you. The fact that you guys come from the same place, it's just, yeah, it's not surprising that at least two of you ended up in this similar mindset of the football dynasty, cool.
And it's not like this is like football guys Discord. This is the Dynasty Underdog Discord.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
A very niche Discord and a very niche thing from a town that nobody's heard of ever before.
I love that. It makes me so happy. Like it makes me so happy. Like that's the magic of Dynasty right there to me. Yeah. Like that's it right there.
Anyway, enough of that. Trades and non-trades. So we have DU4, we have Rico Dowdle and Khalil Shakir for Brenton Strange. Shout out Brenton Strange. Buy him.
Whoa, that was like the last one we were gonna do. Jake's modified this totally. I feel like
no, I swear to God, I didn't. I just took off the trades that we covered last week.
Oh, that's what was there. Okay, my bad. All right. Yeah. So
I didn't know order mattered.
But. Yeah, Dowdle plus Shakir for Strange. So this is actually a trade that is not yet complete.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was going to be, but I'm about to complete it. So it's actually going to end up being Dowdle, Shakir, and a fourth for Strange.
Sure.
So
it's Brenton Strange, yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
Know.
I mean, are you in the playoffs?
Yes.
DU4? Yeah. So okay, I can see what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I also have Kittle, Henry, Mason Taylor. I have about I could probably name a couple more that I have.
Well, this is the thing that you would tell me. Brenton Strange's value is going to increase. Rico Dowdle and Khalil Shakir's values are not going to increase from this point on.
That's fair.
They're probably peak, but that's just what you would tell me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. You're probably right. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's enough said, right? Jake, do you have anything to add?
No, that's what I texted you basically. I was like, those two assets are basically done and Strange could be more, try and get a third on top of it. And I would be fine with it from a contender perspective. And I said, I could see myself. And I think I said, I could see myself accepting a fourth or something along those lines. So you got to the fourth. If you do feel like that's going to be the move that can, pass the needle to having you compete to an extreme level, awesome. I just don't know if
probably doesn't though. I
don't know if either of those assets are doing that, but
Dowdle might, but probably doesn't. He does get a decent schedule, but that's such a might. It's and it's interesting though. So you think Brenton Strange's value can increase from here?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
he's only been back So he was lighting it up early in the season, and then everyone forgot about him. Was leading the team in targets, I believe, target share. Was out with the injury, comes back. He's been back, 2-3 weeks, and is doing the exact same thing again. Draft capital, I think, second round draft capital? I mean, it's good, at least, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I do. I do honestly think that his value could increase.
So he's sitting at tight end 13. Joe asks us, going forward, is Strange a top 8 tight end? Let's talk about who's in front of him really quick. I think this is interesting. We have Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, and George Kittle and Arondé Gadsden in front of him to get to the 8th spot. So maybe you can move Gadsden out of there. And
don't do that to Joe.
I don't know.
Joe, I think it's Arondé Gadsden's biggest fan.
Fair enough. Okay, so but I don't know how he can get up to top 8, maybe top 10. Maybe you get like Dalton Kincaid out of there and Pitts. But even so,
and
I don't
Kittle.
Know. Okay.
Yeah, no, second round. Drafted
he's not a top 10 tight end. Kittle's no longer a top 10 tight end.
No. Oh no. Going forward, I use that as in the future. I don't know what going forward. Okay. I guess is that tomorrow? It's forward
next year. Next 2 years.
Yeah.
Next 2 years.
Yeah. I could see Kittle falling out just given age.
Okay.
As a dynasty asset, I happily own Kittle in a lot of places, but definitely Pitts. You said he's behind Ferguson and Kincaid. Yeah, I could see him passing both of those assets. I think the only downside is that I could totally see someone like Mason Taylor jumping him. I could also see someone like TJ Hawkinson have a comeback year next year, and then his whole the whole perspective around him is completely different. So, it's funny we poo-poo the tight end market, but I do think that there's a lot of interesting value a little bit deeper rather than what's all the way up at the top. But yeah, I think Brenton Strange is definitely, it sounds like acquirable, but he might have been even cheaper this offseason.
Oh God!
Oh, absolutely.
He was so cheap this off, dude. He was dirt cheap this offseason for
was
sure.
He?
That's what I was gonna say. The return on investment is probably there with these players.
Yeah.
I think you're ahead of what you bought Strange for. If you want to just take the profit.
No, but is that really profit though? To you guys' point, it might not be. I mean, he's up almost 1,000 points in keep trade cut value from just November. I wonder what it looks like a year from now.
I don't think
he's up quite a bit of value.
Strange plus Charbonnet for a first just happened today.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm not going to trade him. Jesus Christ.
Whoever you were going to deal with, I'm really sorry. We just pushed you away from.
I just decline that. Now, if we're getting that kind of value, let me add something to him and go get a fucking first. What are we doing?
Yeah.
I think that's probably better. So,
well, thank you for talking me down. All right,
no problem.
I see. This is why my trade value delta is 35,000 and not 90.
Well, you thought it was negative 35,000, so at least
because it felt like it was. Because it felt like it was.
All right.
Okay, we can move. Sorry.
Next one in FFL, we have Etienne for 2 seconds and downs. And someone's blaming it on the trade deadline. So let's talk about it.
Well, it's my trade, so I'll just speak to that part. The trade deadline made me do it, which could probably be a segment title if we come up with enough trades. But so we have a trade deadline in this league, and I think I'm a top 2 seed, so I have a buy in this league. But this was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm I have Justin Jefferson on this team. I have Amari and Hampton on IR. Hill on IR, still have a super strong team, but I'm I really feel like I need to add a running back to this team because it's start 2 running back, and I think I was rocking JT and David Montgomery and Hampton pretty much, which feels a little thin for 2 running backs if I really want to compete. And I felt like I wanted to find some cheaper value. I was going after Javonte Williams over and over and over again with basically the same deal, something similar. I didn't want to pay a first, and we're bumping up against a trade deadline. I'm I got to do something here, and I don't want to pay it first. And so this is basically what I ended up doing. I didn't feel terrible about it when I did it necessarily. I went to the Discord. I think it was kind of a split of sorts. I think maybe it was 1 one vote to the Etienne side, maybe, if I remember correctly. But it was pretty close. It was like 50-50 split. So yeah, I mean, like, I guess my point here is like, this did make me pay more as a contender probably than I would have if I didn't have a trade deadline, because I probably would have been like, no, I'll just wait and see if I can get something later, or if I even need it, I can just kind of wait this out. But also, I might make more trades right now if the trade deadline wasn't there. So like, I think it can go both. It can like help. There's pros and cons still to it, and like it can help get things done maybe, and help a team get more value in maybe a specific trade. But then like, what are you giving up in the potential of getting other trades done where you could have gotten value? So this was one of those trades that felt like the deadline made me do it, and I get why deadlines can make people do things and people can get advantages from them. But I still don't believe in trade deadlines. But okay, what do you guys think about the actual trade?
I still think that's probably. I don't think he overpaid all that much. Like
a little bit, probably.
Probably just a little bit. Yeah. I think it's fine. Like I don't have a whole lot to like dig into about it. Like, oh, you could have done this, could have done that, because you couldn't. You had a trade deadline. So
it's also a 1 QB league, I should state. Sorry if I didn't say that. But
important.
this is not super flex. So this is 2 seconds in Josh Downs for Etienne in a 1 QB league.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I would feel fine getting Etienne for that.
Yeah, so that second isn't going to be Jackson Dart. Got it.
No, it might be a Guka though, because that happened in this league, which is insane, and I benefited from it. But we moved.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. Yeah, I guess I'm only looking right now in Superflex. His value is around 2 seconds, honestly. I think throwing in Downs is totally fine. Maybe Downs has a slight bump if Phillip Rivers' body works properly and he just checks down to him in the slot, but that's about it. And what's he going to do, like a Wan'Dale Robinson like season 2 years ago where he has 120 catches?
That's what's going to happen. Josh Downs is all of a sudden going to be like 8 catches a game. You're like, what the?
8 catches for 32 yards. Yeah, it's going to be fucking awesome. I'm fine with this. I do think technically, like value-wise, you probably lost, but for the sake of contending, I'm fine with like overspending like this. Like I would much rather overspend like this than send like, let's say, a first and a second for a player that you'll never get a first back for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what my options were. My options were send a first and Harold Fannin for Javonte Williams, and I went back with this person for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. 4 weeks. He never got a deal done for Javonte, by the way. Never got a deal done. So I told him I'm dead. I was like, you're going to have this guy die on your roster, or you're going to get value from me now. I don't think you're getting a first, and I'm not giving it to you. I told him straight up. I'm like, that ain't happening. So there was no option other than this really up against the deadline. So I feel good about it. I mean, Etienne had one bad game in the middle of 2 15-pointers or something like that, 15-point plus games. So he's not the most consistent, but I think that it's he's a decent piece for the playoffs this year, at least. And I think also he's proven enough to where he's probably going to get a deal from another team to be a semi-important piece in the backfield. Right. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Okay, let's move on to
Is it PPR? Just curious.
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm
full PPR.
I'm fine with Etienne. Like I see that comment about Josh Downs entering a contract year. That's awesome. He could be freed, but we do have to sometimes think in really small windows, and I'm fine with that here. Yeah, PPR is great for Josh Downs, but yeah,
I think like the upside of Josh Downs isn't enough to kind of like worry about what he could become. You know what I mean? Like that we've seen him over a couple years. Like he's a good player. I really like Josh Downs, but yeah.
Cool. Last couple here. We have 12 teams for flex PPR, half a point premium, start 10, start 2 running backs, start 3 wide receivers. Really don't care for those leagues. I like the flex all, but that's beside the point. But it does change things a little bit. So Juwan Jennings for Jalen Noel, 26 late third.
I'll take Noel in the 26th third. Yeah, I guess I just don't. This is kind of like I think we talked about Juwan Jennings on the episode where we're talking about trade guys for something before they are nothing. And like maybe this is a little under like the second round value you probably want to be getting for him, but I still think that, the third is enough, and then you get Noel, which you can maybe turn into another third or potentially a second if things turn right for him down the road. And yeah, Noel is just 2025 Josh Downs kind of. Yeah, I mean, maybe. And if that's the case, there'll be a window to get out on him. And I do understand Tony here saying, give me Juwan. Like, you can probably get a little bit more for Juwan between now and like, beginning of next season, maybe. I certainly would be pushing for a second with Juwan, but I'd probably take this. I don't know. What do you think, Jake? Or whoever?
Yeah, it was interesting. The reason I added this one was because this is a shared team with Lap and I. We were actually trying to basically break down Egbuka, and we were trying to break down Egbuka for AJ Brown, DeAndre Swift, and Juwan Jennings. And the guy asked for a third on top of Egbuka. We thought it was too much, so we went a different direction. Sent I think it was Jack Besh for Bam Knight to just kind of be like a running back fill-in for us for the week. And then that guy ends up sending Jennings immediately after basically our trade goes through for Noel and a third. And I was just like, yeah, that feels like the exact value that we were kind of giving him.
Yeah.
And if anything, he probably gets a little bit more. He gets Noel. Like, we were really just throwing a third at Jennings in that value of that trade. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty good work by him to like get out of that one deal and almost make more out of it. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, Tony here, top 24 wide receiver with no Ayuk coming back. Short term, I definitely think that's true. So again, like, you could probably hold Juwan and get more out of him over the next few weeks here. I really do think that he should be worth kind of a second given what he's doing production wise, but I just don't think that second round value holds through 6 months, through 12 months, something like that.
He's the definition of a system wide receiver, if I've ever seen one before.
Ooh, yeah. Not many of those out, but yeah, system wide receiver. That's a good one.
Okay. Last one we have here. T. Higgins in an early 26th third for Marvin Harrison Jr. and a late 26th third.
Oof, what the hell?
You can't do this to Billy, man.
Yeah, like I want to take the Higgins side so bad there, but like I mean, it's the Marvin Harrison Jr. side. I think you have to take it. Like,
yeah,
that's where the dynasty value is going to lie. He's going to bounce back in dynasty value, and Michael Wilson having 15 targets in a game can't stop him from coming back, and then stopping Michael Wilson from having 15 targets in a game. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there is a clear scheme to the system that they're in, and I wouldn't be scared off of that whatever's happening with Michael Wilson when Marvin Harrison Jr. is not there. Just feels like you're going to gain quite a bit of value on that Marvin Harrison Jr. side over the coming year. What do you guys think?
I feel the same. And the picks are just.
I mean, it's a wash. They're the same. I'm sure one of them is higher than the other, but they're 2/3, so it's the same thing. So, then you have Tony here, genuinely worried Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't become more than he currently is. It's a fair concern.
Sure.
Jake, do you think? Are you concerned about that too, or are you thinking?
It gives me like JSN vibes. Like, we had a lot of those same feelings with JSN, even healthy. Year 2. Sort of year 1 was, I think, in a lot of our minds, kind of like disappointing. I think the talent's there with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I love T. Higgins too. I just think that moving forward, talking dynasty, I think it's got to be the Marvin Harrison Jr. side.
Yeah, I just think you can do more with Marvin Harrison Jr. again this offseason. And the funny thing is that this feels like a really weird time to trade into T. Higgins because he's most realistically going to be out this upcoming week. So, like, as someone and the team who acquired T. Higgins is not on bye, so you basically acquired T at a premium for him to not play in your first playoff game when you could have used Marvin Harrison to probably get into points this week. So yeah, it just felt like a really weird trade. I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest, but then again, this trade guy partner, whatever you want to call him, league mate, asshole. I'm not particularly a big fan of him. So I was really happy that he got this trade done. This dude has complained about every single trade that Lapisaurus and I have gotten done publicly in the league chat is crazy. And so when he did this, I was like, I wanted to be like, what is this, collusion? Just so but I decided against it. I'm not that petty. Anyway, yeah, it was a fine trade. I would definitely just rather go with the liquidity on Marvin Harrison Jr.
Cool.
One comment I want to throw up here real quick, not about this, but did you have something to say about this specifically, Ray? Sorry.
No. I was trying to do my hosting duties.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm going to let you do that in 1 second. But Joe did have a comment here real quick. Do we agree that this is coming back to the tight ends a little bit? I did want to touch on this before we get out of here. Do we agree that the difficult thing about tight end value versus wide receiver running back value is it feels like tight end value seems to fluctuate a lot more? It definitely does. I will say the only thing about Strange that I do agree with Jake and your eye on is that he's been pretty darn consistent when he's on the field. Like when he's on the field, he's giving you kind of the same work every time. And it's almost always been like over 5 targets a game. And if he's going to continue being like a significant part of any offense, like, I don't know, maybe that does get to the tight end 8-ish range, like Joe was talking about. And he's more of a sustainable, weapon there. So I can see it just in that specific scenario. But I mean, Joe's right in terms of like, they're definitely a lot more, their value is a lot more flimsy, right? It certainly is, especially outside of the top like 5 or so. I mean, you see Hawkinson down in the 20s all of a sudden out of nowhere, right? Like that can happen fast.
Sure.
So it's a good point. Does anybody have any feedback on that?
I think the biggest thing with tight ends that we really do see is that they are unfortunately used as more often than not like mismatch kind of key figure points in offenses. And unless they're like truly elite, they don't end up staying consistent from an output perspective throughout the entire year. So it makes it really challenging to, I think, have value stay as flat as what we're seeing with like Trey McBride or even Brock Bowers over the last 12 to 16 months. Like look at Sam Laporta, like look at what happened to him so quickly. Look at what happened to, excuse me. Look at what happened to TJ Hawkinson. Look what happened to Kittle with his injury last year. Like I think that we are just in a place where tight ends won't stay there unless they can somehow sit around that like 90 to 110 target range in a given season and show it consistently. And that's just, it's going to be a very select few, and it has to be in a very distinct offense.
That's a good point. Okay.
Awesome.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
No, I think that's all we got today.
Okay. With that, thanks everybody for joining us live. It's one of the cooler parts about doing this, especially this season. Just seems that it's really had an uptick in activity during our lives, which is kind of cool. Always giving us other stuff to talk about. If you're not in there, join the Discord. Link should be at the bottom somewhere. It's a great place to come and ask for advice before sending trades and hanging out on game day especially. So if you guys got nothing else to add, have a good night.
No, appreciate everybody. Have a good one.